Today we speak about global sectors, but if there is a sector that is totally global, it's the one of aviation. It's the only one that operates in any parts of the world and in any country. We're very lucky to have the airlines that we have with us today here, and an insurance company which is a leader internationally. On my right, we have Iberia, who's the leader in the European market. Iberia is having its 19th birthday this year, and is the best airline in as much as punctuality in the world at the moment. It is young in the sense of the restructuring that it has achieved, and it has a solid income basis. The focus is in LATAM and has established a transition in the Asian area, with traditional destinations being recovered. The last big challenge for Iberia has been to be appointed to carry out the new low-cost flights that IAG, the holding it belongs to, with the merger with British Airways, will develop in the future. We have Sara Garcia with us today. Sara is a lawyer, and she has been working in the insurance sector for a while now. She is the manager of insurance and risk in Iberia, and she has been working in several universities, and she's a member of the advisory board of Mapfre Global Risks. On my left-hand side, I have Aeromexico. Aeromexico was founded in 1934. It has 134 aircrafts with an average age of 8 years, and the most modern plane in the world as well. Aeromexico has 13,000 employees in the world, and it has carried out more than 600 flights a day. Aeromexico is a founding member of SkyTeam and has strategic alliances with Delta Airlines that has 49% of the shares of the Aeromexico group. In representation of Aeromexico, we have Mariana Pizá. Mariana, she's got a degree in finance and has worked in the insurance sector in ING Insurance Company, then working for Dry Carpenter, then for Reassure Swiss Re, and then Aeromexico. She's Senior Vice President in Aeromexico, and she's the risk manager in the company. On my left, Azul Airlines. Azul is a regional airline in Brazil, quite young because it was founded in 2008. The founder and shareholder is the same one as the famous low-cost JetBlue. Other shareholders are United Airlines and Hainan Airlines from China. Azul operates almost 800 flights a day to 100 destinations internationally, and in 2016 it carried 21 million passengers. Azul has become the biggest airline in numbers in Brazil. The biggest shareholder of Azul has bought a share in TAP Airlines in Portugal. So therefore, Azul has a long way to go. And representing the insurance sector, we have Global Aerospace. Global is a leader in the insurance company market in this sector. The headquarters is in London, but it has offices in Canada, France, Sweden, Germany, and the US. Global is one of the biggest markets in the aviation sector, and it owns several airlines, airline operators, etc. Global is a holding in which we have 5 groups such as Mapfre. Representing Global Aerospace, we have the CEO, Nick Dam. Nick has a long-standing experience, more than 30 years, in Nick Brown and in insurance and reinsurance as well. With these speakers that we have here with us today, one of the main questions that we have to think about is aimed in the first place to airlines. What does an airline expect from the leading insurance company that they have? This is a question that I'm going to send to all the airlines, and please answer the question, and then we will take this to global aerospace as well. So first, Sarah, what do you expect as an airline from a leading insurance company? The first thing we do is to analyze the security rating, the number of programs they lead in aviation, and what is the evolution in the program. For us, it is very important that they have a structure which is quite solid in the management of the problems, in the internal elements. What abilities and capacities do they have to manage a big event? This year, our group has been very much committed with the reduction of events, and we have asked for the support of our leader. We have to take a look at the impression of the behavior of the market in those renovations that have taken place lately before our own one, and we would like to know how do you see our group as a positioned group with regard to other airlines. We would like to know his opinion about that. From Aeromexico, what do you expect from a leading company? We, as Aeromexico, basically expect that from the general perspective and individual perspective, it is taken into consideration the activities, the culture, the evolution of the airline. This is what we're going to take into consideration as the main point of view for risk. So for us, it is very important to have your presence in the company, because through this is the best way to do it. We carry out 3 yearly meetings, 3 annual meetings with a leader, and taken to the technical perspective, you have to understand what our plans are, what is the financial solvency, etc. Secondly, a visit to our location, to our headquarters. They would realize what's going on in the everyday work of people working with safety, security, etc., in the case of emergency. And this is precisely where we comment on what is the best way to lead the risk. And the claims review, which is an annual one, of course, where we are given the opportunity to express directly what's going on, what happens, and what are the ways to avoid problems and have a better degree of events. So, Ronaldo, what do you expect in Azul? What does Azul expect from a leader in the insurance market? Well, first of all, good morning. I want to thank Mapfre, Paola, and everybody, and I want to speak in Spanish because I don't want to speak Portuguese. But again, we have a problem with this because we've been told we are interpreters from English into Spanish and vice versa, not Portuguese. So we're sorry, we can't interpret from Portuguese.
Análises de rating, a gente faz análise de todos os cases no mercado, a capacitação, mas é muito importante que o mercado segurador conheça muito bem o nosso processo interno. Nós fazemos o maior esforço para ter um relacionamento super aberto, um relacionamento transparente, e isso com certeza vai fazer o segurador conhecer muito bem o nosso processo e quais são as nossas estratégias para que ele tenha segurança em promover seguros para a nossa empresa. Funciona mais ou menos como o que nós fazemos junto aos bancos em relação às análises de crédito. Então, o banco precisa muito bem saber como que está a nossa saúde financeira, quais são os nossos processos de segurança, de safety, de manutenção, e isso vai promover uma maior integração entre o segurador, os corretores, a empresa e, com certeza, algo que nós esperamos é que novos limites sejam abertos para que possamos continuar crescendo como estamos crescendo até hoje. E não posso deixar de dizer aqui que a Mapfre é um parceiro importantíssimo da Azul Linhas Aéreas desde 2008. Então são quase 10 anos que vocês estão junto conosco, desde de uma startup que a empresa começou num PowerPoint e até o tamanho que a empresa está hoje.
Gracias, Renato. Nick, tu parte, ¿qué espera un asegurador de un gerente de riesgos?
Well, my firm belief is that insurance works best when everybody is working together as a team. Everybody concerned is working together as a team. So what I'm looking for in an airline risk manager is somebody who shares that vision and can pull that together. So internally, I'm looking for a risk manager that has good connections in all the different parts of the airline that we're interested in: flight safety, training, maintenance, and legal, and so on. And who recognizes that all the external partners, the insurer, the broker, the external service providers, that they're also part of this same team and that we can all be working together to the same aim. I think that's very important on a day-to-day basis, but in the aftermath of a serious accident, that's when it really becomes absolutely crucial, because now the risk manager is right in the middle of effectively a crisis situation that involves lots and lots of different parties and different interests. You can imagine in today's world the pressures on an airline if they've had an accident, if there are fatalities, the intense media attention on the business, on everything that they do, the deafening noise in social media that's going to be surrounding it. So this is not a good time for us to get to know each other. You know, we need to be working together well, know each other well before that, so that when these situations happen, very, very quickly we can get things moving, get things progressing, get the families looked after, get the wreckage dealt with, all the different things that are going to happen very quickly in those initial hours and days after the accident, to make sure that we're all working together well. So the final thing about the risk manager in an airline, I think they have to have a strong voice within the airline. They have to have sufficient status within the airline, because in those situations they need to be pulling together the different interests within the airline, the legal, the CEO, who may have his own idea about how to handle things, and to make sure that we're all pulling in the same direction.
Gracias. Sarah,
what's the role of a risk manager, and how important is the insurance element in Iberia? And the insurance is not only important, but is extremely important, and we have to realize that the aviation sector is quite complex, is quite cyclic, quite unstable, quite sensitive, and quite exposed to geopolitical phenomena. And therefore, not only we are an airline in itself, but we also provide handling to third parties.
Insure third-party planes. We also carry out maintenance. We transport loads. We do an infinity of web transactions. So therefore, our position is quite strong in the sector. In that sense, the risk, what it has to do is to protect the business without gaps in insurance coverage. So what does the risk manager, what does he do in Iberia? He develops the risk approach, risk management. We analyze the risk structures, and we also try to reconcile the risk, and it should be also in accordance with the financial strength of the company. And we represent, together with the Welling and British Airways and Aer Lingus, With the risk managers of those companies, we develop a common strategy. We also review the contracts of the different areas and sectors of the companies. We try to implement best practices to minimize risk and to transfer, whenever possible, the risk to the counterparts. We serve as support for subsidiaries of our company. We monitorize that the claims are correctly sent out to the insurance companies. In our policies, we also try to improve any way possible. Renato, how is the risk manager in your company? How important is the insurance in yours? The insurance is important for any company. The interpreter is going to try to interpret the Portuguese. Any activity, mainly with the airlines, there it's necessary that any failure, any risk, any problem can occasion a very serious problem. Anything can happen, and we are dealing with human lives. So it's very important for this area. We have to conduct an in-depth analysis. First, we have to assess the insurance and the value of the insurance, the third, the insurance, and the fourth, insurance, and then the other values. The main responsibility of the risk manager is first to know all the areas and sectors. He has to understand everything what everybody is doing, in the airport, maintenance, customer service. All the processes have to be in-depth analyzed. We supply all type of insurances, property, civil liability insurance, international loads, national loads. There's a need to promote an integration between all the areas. We have to know the whole company in all the areas and all the different units. We have to have there has to be also total transparency with the insurance, and we also on different times we obviously provide risk training to our employees. We call the insurers up. We call them Mapfre. And in 2008, in 2008, we opened up a crisis room, which is in reality, it's located in an apartment, in a house. We called Mapfre. I was talking with the Mapfre representative earlier on, and was telling him we called a Mapfre representative so that he knows everything, all the movements. And I do believe that really provided Mapfre with a lot of trust in our processes, and also it increased trust and confidence in our risk manager. There's also a determination by us any plane, when the plane stops, there is a complete checkout of the airplane, and if there's anything that has to be repaired or maintained, even a light bulb that is not working, and all the safety. And all the safety has to be taken care of and checked out. And if there's a problem with the plane, there are 40, 60, or 80 days. That there's not 40 or 60 or 80 days until they repair the problem. No, it has to be done immediately. the action has to be taken immediately. And any problems, well, we're talking now about a small incident in an airport or problem with a client, it's important that it's immediately reported so that we receive the information. This is the communication has to be very fast between the insurance companies and us. Mariana? I would add to what has been commented up to now that mainly we are an area which raises awareness within the company, the fact that there are existing risks and those risks can be transferred or they can be assumed by the company. But you have to have that in mind to raise awareness. It's a very important activity, communication strategies, so that everybody knows that in any given time we have the necessary backup and especially prevention, to be preventive and preemptive, and we do so reviewing all the companies in our company, the insurance clauses, and it's very important to be present and to even participate in the negotiations. And it's so important. And well, to sum up, it's a decision between continuing in the business or not to be, in other words. So thank you very much. So now we are going to speak about the process in which you contract an insurance and an airline and a group such as important as yours. Renato, can you tell us what is your process to contract an insurance? Well, it's not really a normal procedure. First of all, we draft a strategic planning, and we look at our growth, what our potential growth, what are the economic variables, the potential growth, because of that has an impact on the aviation market. In a crisis moment, we look at the appreciation or depreciation of our model in comparison to the other countries, and we know that this has an influence on the price, has the influence of the demand side, and it has an impact on the companies. So we look at the potential growth rate. And our company, the Blue, is growing. We have 11,000 employees. We have increased our airplane, the number of our airplanes, and the most important thing is to really know how to measure. What are we going to have available? How many airplanes are we going to receive? What are the new airports that we are going to operate out? Brazil is a very large country. In Brazil, we have 125 commercial airports. 40 airports approximately they provide air transport services. And we were at 40 airports, and now we have increased our number, and we're operating out of 105 airports. So what do? We need to measure our exposition and to carry out a precise value calculation to ensure all the aircrafts, the simulators, and the locations from which we operate, and we share all that information with the insurance company, and we promote. We monitorize, we carry out a very precise monitorization. So we also we need to reduce cost and to deliver positive profit margins. Renato, Mariana, what is the process that Aeromexico follows in the contracting of its insurance policies? Well, I would divide it in two: aviation insurance and the rest of the insurance. You cannot use the same formula for both. And aviation the price is very important, but definitely it is much more important who is your leader, who is behind the account, and who is the security that backs that company up. But however, it's important to follow important steps to review what do we have today, to challenge the fact that that perhaps what you have today you might not need it tomorrow. It's a market which is very dynamic, and you have to be always ahead, and sometimes reduce coverages which are not needed anymore. Second, identify which risk can occur or can be incurred through a change in the legislation, and also look at the casualties and the laws, and any laws raises the awareness of the population. That doesn't need to be a great accident or casualty, even if it's very small. There we are able to learn about potential coverages that we need. And finally, to be in constant contact with the insurer. I believe that is very important because you realize how the world is evolving in terms of coverages. We will see it further on and on risk. And then finally, an evaluation is conducted on all this information that we ask the market, and the committee or commission has to evaluate which risks are going to be assumed by the company or which ones are going to be transferred out. In Iberia, well, I'm going to focalize on the aviation insurances since they are the most complex ones for our company. There's a milestone, which is a function or the way how British Airways works with Iberia. I'm since 2009 in Iberia, in which Iberia was already included Welling, Iberia Express, and this is a Spanish market group. But British Airways was placing its risk with LAN Chile and with Aer Lingus. So once in 2011, once we merged, and the insurance programs were identified as one of the first main targets to find synergies within the group. So we placed our contracts together. And now we have the company EAG Latam. We are the fourth group the largest group in insurance aviation in the world. And how do we contract the insurances? We do it in different phases. First, we meet physically a couple of times in London, the representatives of EAG and Latam. What we do then is analyze what has been the behavior of our program during the past year. We look at our casualty rate, and then we look at how are we going to get in touch with the market? What is going to be our strategy? We can say we want to invite a new member. Who is going to be the interlocutor? How are we going to do it? We can decide that we are going to offer a tender to the brokers. And then a second phase, which is a more active, which is a verticalization of our program, in which the group takes an active part in the market selection. And then finally, we hold a physical meeting where we all meet in London, where we analyze how we have placed our insurance, if our expectations have been satisfied, and if not, which are the aspects or issues that can be improved. We have also seen that in the aviation insurance, it's quite normal that the premiums are placed on different levels. With the leader, normally you pay a little bit more, and with the secondary players, you pay a little bit less. How do you justify that the leader has a higher premium than the rest of the followers or the market?
Thank you for that question, Paula. I agree, it looks very strange. If you're familiar with a co-insurance market in which all the participants get the same premium as the leader, the aviation market looks very, very strange because everybody's getting different premiums. And it is very easy to justify because what it does is it enables the airlines to get the most competitive possible overall composite premium from their placement. Let me give you an example. I may lead an airline and my premium may be 100. The cheapest terms on the placement may be, say, 70. Okay, so you say, well, as leader, you're getting far too much more than that market. But that market may only have capacity for, say, 3%. So you still have, it's no good, if you were in a situation where everybody participated at the same terms, you could never take advantage of that price of 70 because you still have the other 97% which you would not be able to place because everybody else wants higher premiums. So the system we have in aviation is a sign of a very competitive marketplace. The brokers are extremely skillful at utilizing this system in order to produce for the clients the best overall composite price. And it's a system we're used to, and I think it actually, at the end of the day, works very well for the clients.
Interesante. The
market, we have seen how Iberia has told us, and Juan and the rest of the participants, they invite a number of airlines to link within the group to ask together jointly for the insurance package. What are the advantages and disadvantages at the joint purchase of insurance contracts or insurance coverage? Well, for me, there are more advantages than disadvantages, quite obvious. If you have a casualty rate which is controlled and you provide capacity to the market, there you will get better premiums. On the other hand, if you buy as a group or purchase, the casualty rate gets diluted from, let's say, if an airline has a specific an airline which had a difficult year. It is an advantage for that airline, but a disadvantage for the rest of the group. We are also very strongly committed to reduce casualties, and if one member is not as strongly committed, then it would have an impact on the rest of the group. But what I would like to underline, and it's quite important, we cannot purchase insurance to get discounts. We cannot cluster ourselves. The market has to feel that there's a vocation for stability and permanence, and this is what we are committed to. That is the reason why we have designed a governance agreement, which are regulation by which regulation of new members are regulated, the way if they're expelled, voting system. But the most important thing that I can underline about this governance agreement, it regulates how to deal with the economic impact of an important casualty or an important loss of the airlines. We have opted for the mutualization, so distribution among the members. We have designed to how to distribute the loss, and we buy specific protection to protect each airline. Mariana, how does Aeromexico look at the joint purchase of insurance? In our case, it's a little bit different since we have a very different risk from the other Mexican airlines as such, and a difference with the rest of our region. Obviously, there are advantages in terms of price, in terms of rates and premiums, but with the exercises that we have conducted in the past years, we have appreciated that in a one pool there are different risks. In this sense, we believe we have been a very healthy company for the insurance sector due to our casualty rate. And up to now, it hasn't made any sense for us to merge, to buy insurance jointly. Obviously, there is an economy of scale, but we don't want to, if you allow me to use the term, pollute our airlines, if you allow me to use this term once again, and we have not done so. We have a collaboration agreement with Delta that was set on the table. There was a proposal for it, but both senior management decided that we have very different risk factors, and in the case of Aeromexico, it wouldn't make any sense to purchase insurance jointly. What is your opinion in Brazil's case? In the case of Azul, we had optimum experiences. The interpreter is once again not a Portuguese interpreter, so we are trying to do our best. So in any case, first of all, as Mariana stated, the insurance market is more or less the same. But one has to optimize information of the two companies or three companies together with the market, and especially to work with sound companies. There's in our insurance market knows which company is growing, which company is improving its processes of communication, maintenance, safety, and all the other associated risks. So therefore, in 2011, Azul was very strong in the southeast and the northeast of Brazil. We had a lot of presence in that part of Brazil, and another company which was included by Azul, which is called Tripi Líneas Aéreas. It was covering the north, which is a very important market, since it's a business, a corporate market. In Brazil, 65 to 70% of our clients are corporate customers. When we merged our company, we joined our insurance companies and we obtained a great benefit. Also, we improved our internal communications, also in our exposure of all our fleet, aircraft fleet, and we improved all our processes. The aircrafts were similar, but they were divided in different units. And we negotiated strongly with Mapfre. And the other airline company had the insurance contract with another company. And we have been able to achieve important cost reductions. After that, in 2014 and in 2015, we purchased our insurance and contracted our insurance together with TAP Airlines, and the casualty rate and the processes were very different. We were able to generate certain advantages, merging both companies and presenting them in the insurance. We showed them our soundness, that we are solid, and we showed them also the improvement of our internal processes. And that is quite important and very valuable to improve processes. Nick, how does the insurance market evaluate or assess this type of joint programs of different companies?
The market has had some bad experiences with group placements, with group buying programs in the past, typically where airlines have come together as a buying group in order to get a discount from the market because of their volume. And then one of the airlines has a big claim, and so all the other airlines say, right, you're now out of the buying group, and so here's our buying group, and our loss record is clean, and that airline can go over there. And so that's not what I call a real buying group, or it's not a genuine group. So what we're really looking for is a group where there's a strong connection between the airlines and a real commitment to actually buying together, and to an extent sharing the benefits as well as the potential downsides. Sarah talked about governance. I think that's really important, that there has to be a very clear understanding between the partners within the group as to how it operates, what people's responsibilities and rights are, and those sort of things. So I think if they're genuine groups where there's a genuine commitment between the airlines, then they can work very, very well over a long period of time. If they're not, then they tend to be very short-term and quite problematic for the market.
Gracias. Vamos a centrar nuestra próxima pregunta en las compañías.
We are going to now focus on the low cost, and my question is going to be focused on low cost because Azul is a low cost, very important low cost airline in Brazil. And one question which is interesting for all as passengers, once we buy a low cost trip, sometimes we think that's a low cost low-cost airline provide the same security as the one which is no low-cost? Please tell us what do you do, what are the safety measures that you take, and how do you face this type of situations? How would you respond? Well, this question is very important. The most important point is for an airline is to promote safety and have a good maintenance program. When you say a low-cost company in Brazil, in reality, I will have to tell you a little bit about the history of the air market in history. From 2000 to 2008 to 2008, there are different graphs that prove the growing demand of the domestic trips in Brazil. At the same time, as the demand was growing, the quantity of cities where airlines flew reduced itself. So some airlines left the market, and a duopoly was formed, two companies which controlled the market. The airline companies, they opted to maintain larger aircraft, and they were not able to fly from the smaller airports since the aircraft were too large in size, and the service to many cities were reduced. Once the low cost came in, exactly the opposite happened. So what we did with the low cost, we covered the whole Brazilian territory. We increased, at the time 40 cities only offered airline service, and now we have 105 cities, and we cover 70% of the territory. So basically, this was a very strong strategic commitment to connect, first of all, to improve connectivity, punctuality, and to provide point-to-point flights.
Fazer uma reunião num determinado local e voltar para casa no mesmo dia.
And we also many business people want to fly in the morning and then leave in the afternoon or at night at the same day. So therefore, and we created that network.
Repassar muito o nosso custo para preço.
And we have also been able to reduce our cost. And we are a low-cost company much more internally than externally. So our management is very competent and competitive, and which carries out a continued cost reduction program. This allows us to deliver positive profit margins to our investors, to our shareholders, and we offer also more space between the seats. We fly everywhere. So the business person which flies to a location, the advantage is he can fly and return in the same day and things like that. So this is we developed a very strong strategy, and there is a high barrier for our competitors to get into this market. This is why we have taken the leadership in this market. In 60% of the places, only Azul is present, our company.
Tão baixo quanto o público conhece, o que é importante.
Our price is low, but it's also important to say that we offer a just price. At the time that we started in 2009, we compared our price with the prices of the other airline companies, and our price was lower. The other companies, they reduced their price, and they saw that if you work with our price, it still allows you to have a market profits. And we still have a positive profit margin on a continued way.
margens positivas para o mercado.
We have been continuously offering in a continued fashion appreciable profit margins for our shareholders, our investors, and therefore we have a margin of 20 to 25%, and this in spite of all the risks involved in operating in Brazil.
Apresentar uma companhia aérea para o
This
acionista e para os investidores.
is an airline company which is profitable for the investors, for the shareholders, and attractive to our customers. The aircrafts that we select,
Basicamente são aeronaves Embraer, que são os jatos.
basically they are
Vocês conheçam as aeronaves da JetBlue nos
they are
Estados Unidos.
they are like the aircrafts of JetBlue in the US.
Totalmente brasileira, ela é
The
nacional.
aircrafts are national, are Brazilian,
Nós conseguimos
and therefore we were able to finance
várias aeronaves em reais.
different of our the airplanes that we purchased in reais, in our national currency. So this allowed us to reduce costs even further, and this is quite
Ter essa
important.
gestão e ofertar margens positivas
And this able
para o mercado com preço justo.
this is the reason why we are able to offer just prices.
¿Cómo valora el mercado de seguros?
So, Nick,
las
how
compañías
do you
aéreas
assess
riesgo?
this market in the low-cost airlines? This is the same
It's
risk,
interesting.
more.
I think there is a public perception that maybe low cost means lower safety, but actually, if you look at the facts, that's not true at all. The low-cost sector has really a very good safety record, and has been around now since for more than 30 years, since Southwest Airlines was first founded in Dallas, Texas, which started this whole kind of model. And when you look at the pure low-cost model, it's a very, very, very simple operating model, because you fly passengers from A to B and from B to A. And you don't do anything else. So you're not transferring bags between flights. You're not carrying cargo. You're not doing maintenance. You're not doing maintenance for other airlines. You're not providing ground handling services for other airlines, and so on. Your fleet probably is a fleet of aircraft that are exactly the same. Each aircraft is exactly the same. So it's a very, very, very simple system. And I think we all know that complexity adds risk to any system. So the simpler the system, the less risk. What that means for insurers also as a benefit is that because they're not doing all these other things that a full service carrier is doing, the actual level of small claims tends to be a lot less. So we don't get as many baggage claims, for example, because we're not transferring bags between flights. We don't get as many third-party claims because we're not providing services to third parties, and so on. So as a risk, actually, generally speaking, they're a pretty good risk for the market.
La siguiente pregunta va dirigida
The question goes to
de
Mariana from Aeromexico.
Hay muchos cambios en la
There are
política
many
de
changes
Estados
in the
Unidos
policy in the
y
US,
la actual
and
situación.
the current situation
¿Cómo puede afectar al desarrollo de
may
Aeroméxico?
affect the development of Aeromexico. How can it affect it? Well, it's true that there are many measures that have tried to diminish the trade between the two countries, but recently there was a signature of a bilateral agreement regarding this particular sector, the aeronautic sector. The idea is to carry out joint agreements and give access to local markets. Both things were positive, and in this sense, Aeromexico had an advantage because we had gone a long way already with Delta, that at the moment was code sharing at that time. But this agreement that we have now has enabled us to increase the number of routes, to increase the connectivity points that we both have, to bring more passengers, to carry more passengers. This has also helped not only Aeromexico, but the consumer in general, because all these agreements to be able to carry more passengers passengers, give possibilities of economies of scale for everybody, and it is a better product in the long run for the consumer. We are currently carrying approximately 1,000 flights a week, which goes against what we're hearing in political terms, obviously, between the relationship between the US and Mexico. Well, this goes for Iberia. After so many years of experience, how have claims changed from the beginning, the claims by passengers from the beginning till now? Well, they have increased a lot. Undoubtedly, there is a culture of claiming and the proliferation of web portals telling you about the rights of the passenger. This has an influence. The advertising in the press or by the organizations, the consumer organizations, etc. If we carry out a comparison between the air transport and land transport, we see that it is much more complex to fly, and the legislator is much harder with the airline sector than with the land sector. If a train arrives late or is cancelled, they just pay for it and that's it. But not only you have to pay for delays, cancellations of a booking, you have to give a new route to them, you have to pay for the hotel, pay for the phone bill, bring them to a hotel, etc. So the ratio is crazy. But it is not all bad news. Recently we had good news. We operate, our group operates in Brazil strongly. We all know the strength of the defense of the consumer. And in Brazil, according to Article 138 of the Constitution, establishes that the regulations establishing the responsibilities of airlines, the Montreal Agreement and the Warsaw Agreement, prevail over the Code of Defense of the Consumer. Hopefully this will reduce the number of claims, yeah.
Bueno, vamos a agotar los últimos minutos para hablar de retos.
And we're going to devote the last few minutes to speak about challenges.
Un gerente de riesgos como Azul.
What is the biggest challenge of a risk manager like the one in Azul, for instance?
Acho que o maior desafio realmente.
We're going to try to do the translation into English, although he's speaking Portuguese, as we have said in several opportunities.
Conseguir dimensionar os riscos.
The idea is to give a new dimension, an adequate dimension to risks.
Temos feito isso de uma forma contínua.
We've done this in a continuous way. We have been carrying out conversations. We have tried to understand what are the situations in which we have to adapt for each location that we service, that we include in the routes, for each new route.
Então, recentemente a Azul começou a fazer voos diretos para Portugal.
We started in Portugal, the US, Uruguay, Argentina.
Então, a legislação
and the legislation, as you know, is much different in these countries.
A legislação, entender todas as exigências.
We have to understand all the demands in each country. So it is a challenge. And the challenge is to give an adequate dimension to the risks.
E promover uma comunicação aberta continuamente com os seguradores.
And promoting an open communication with insurers.
Gracias. Mariana,
thank you.
¿Cuál es el reto para ti?
Mariana, what's your challenge?
Yo hablaría como
I would speak about several challenges inside the company. Definitely, Mexico is a country which has a low penetration in insurance, but the senior management of the company is very much involved. We're fully positive that this is essential. We have to get this down to all areas we have to
y que se tenga una comunicación verdadera
have
entre
an
las
adequate
aseguradoras
communication
y la
between
gente que
the
lo usa.
insurance
Al final
companies
nosotros
and
lo que
the
buscamos es
customers.
traducir,
What we try to do
las
is to
necesidades de
translate
cobertura del
the
interior de la
need
compañía
for
hacia las
coverage inside the
aseguradoras,
company
y a
to
veces esa
insurance
comunicación es
companies.
la que
And sometimes it is this
no es tan sencilla.
communication that
Entonces, el
does
reto
not
para
become so
nosotros es
easy.
decir
So the
a toda
challenge
la gente
is
que tenemos seguros, que
telling
estamos
everyone that
asegurados,
we have
pero que podemos
insurance, that we're
contribuir tanto en la
insured,
prevención
but we
como,
can contribute to
en el
prevention
desarrollo de cómo
and
reclamar
to
un
development
siniestro.
on
Entonces, creo
how
que
to
este
claim,
entendimiento y esta traducción es el
how to carry out a claim.
para administración
And this
de
is the big challenge for the administration, the risk administration. Sarah, what's your challenge? Communication is a challenge, I believe.
Para nosotros,
For us,
Iberia es una compañía meramente operativa, donde
in Iberia, which is a merely operative company, we have a multitude of procedures. You ask the staff to fulfill a significant amount of information, and sometimes they are not explained what lies behind it. In this sense, we have been grouped in a building in the corporate and operational part of the company, and we're in an open plan display in the building, and this has made it better for us to communicate. We have a closer relationship. In my area, we can have a culture of safety in the company, and we're fully happy. But the communication management, on the other hand, has designed a safety communication plan. It's not going to be an isolated campaign. We're going to be a hammer. We're going to be doing it every day. It's going to last for 1 year. And we are going to try and provide every employee with all the necessary information about the safety culture. And employees should not be scared of reporting. We have provided the staff with more efficient electronic tools. There's a better way to carry out the traceability of claims and losses. We are displaying several videos in public areas. We are displaying posters. We are publishing articles in the intranet. And in insurance, we are providing courses, etc. It is great when the crew knows why and how. It is amazing how they collaborate with us. You should be astonished about that, the way they collaborate. And finally, what are the challenges of the insurance market? What are the main challenges that you have to face in the insurance market in general, but in aviation, of course, Rick? What do you think?
Okay, well, I think if you look at the product that we're providing as aviation insurers, the main function of it is to protect airlines against the very catastrophic risks that they face following a major accident. We actually provide within single ground-up policies, we provide very, very high limits up to and above $2 billion US for responsibility, for third-party liability and passenger liability. We provide hull coverage, physical damage to hull coverage, up to $350 million per aircraft. So we're providing policies with very, very, very big limits to protect airlines against this really catastrophic exposure that in the worst case that they are running. Having said that, the good news is that these guys have been doing a great job of improving safety over the last 20, 30, 40 years. I mean, if you look at the safety record of airlines today and compare it with that of even 20 years ago, it's much, much, much better. If you remember 20 years ago, how often you woke up in the morning, turned on the news, and you saw pictures of, we saw one just now, pictures of an aircraft accident and big headlines. I'm sure if you think about it, although that you still do occasionally turn on the news and see exactly that, it's a much, much less common occurrence because flying has become, thankfully, a lot safer, particularly in the developed world. So that's the good news. Now the bad news for us as insurers is that we don't just cover the catastrophic risk, we also cover a lot of the operational risk, we cover the baggage and cargo, and we cover the small hull claims, the partial hull claims and so on. And those claims are still overall growing. There's a massive growth in traffic, in air traffic, because the airline industry is very successful at the moment. More and more people are flying. And that means, that there is more and more of these sort of small, regular type claims coming on. And when you look at the technology involved in the new generation of aircraft, it's much, much more expensive to repair than the technology of a few years ago. So, for example, most new aircraft now have large amounts of composite materials, composite structures, carbon fiber type structures, which are very much more expensive to repair than the traditional aluminium panels that aircraft used to be made of. Engine technology is absolutely incredible now. The reason that aircraft are so much more fuel efficient now than they were in the past is because of the amazing technology that goes into these new big engines that you see on aircraft. But again, if something happens, if an object gets into the engine and causes damage to the engine, that is now a very, very expensive claim for insurers. 20 years ago, an engine claim, if it was $5 million, we'd think that was a really, really big claim. Today, regularly, we're seeing claims $15, $20, $25 million just for a single engine claim. So what all that means is that the premium levels that we're charging at the moment, and by the way, I learned a great Spanish phrase this morning in the first session, which was this concept of the mercado blando. Unfortunately, we have had a very blando market in aviation insurance for a number of years now. So our premiums have kept on coming down. Although we haven't had lots of catastrophic losses, we've had a few big losses, the Malaysian ones, German wings and so on. The sort of regular day-to-day claims have kept on growing and are now at about the same level as the premiums that we're charging, okay? Or possibly slightly higher. So we're a market providing huge limits, covering catastrophic risk, but all the premiums we're charging are just about covering just the day-to-day operational claims. So that cannot be a sustainable model for an insurance market. And my fear is that if we did have a big claim or a couple of big claims, the market would be very fragile because it would immediately be exposed as being having a completely crazy pricing model at the moment. So somehow, we can't stop the market from being blando, but somehow we have to work out how do we get back to a more technical way of pricing our business. I think that's our biggest challenge as aviation insurers.
Bueno, muchas gracias a todos. Ya estamos en el tiempo de descuento.
And we don't have much time left. We have just 1 minute to summarize and to carry out synthesis of what you've been saying. We've said that the key is to establish a good relationship between the airline and the insurance company, is the knowledge about the market and the business. We have also spoken about the global markets. It is certainly very important that there is an agreement, a government agreement that regulates the consequences in the case of an important claim or loss, and the assessment of risk is essential. It is important to assess the risks that we're facing to deal with them adequately. And finally, we've spoken about the main challenges that the risk manager is facing, which basically have to do with the collaboration of all the business areas involved in the organization. For the service market, for the insurance market, there should be some technical device that enables us to face big claims, which is decreasing, but the frequency is increasing because technology is increasingly more expensive. I want to thank everybody for coming today. We are fully available for the audience if they have any questions. Thank you.